YouTube, we back at it again. NFC Midseason Grades video. Let's get it. The Green Bay Packers.
I really miss my nigga. I really miss my nigga.
The expectation was that Green Bay would obviously struggle after losing Devontae Adams, but they seem to look even worse than we had expected. Rodgers looks uncomfortable throwing to receivers who have been on his team for years, and both the play calling and the energy that Rodgers brings to the team seem to be lackluster, along with that deep ball that Rodgers was so good at for most of his career doesn't seem to hit like it used to. Defensively, the Packers are still passable, but nothing great. So overall, gotta give Green Bay a D. The Detroit Lions. If this isn't the clearest example of a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde syndrome, then I don't know what else is. Detroit is right outside the top 10 in points per game, ranks 5th in total yards gained per play, 6th in total yards per game, 10th in rush yards per game, and 4 of the 6 losses have been decided by 4 points or less. But even with that offensive display of excellence, Detroit has the worst defense in the league by giving up 29 points per game. I was rooting for this team, especially Dan Campbell after watching Hard Knocks, and I love the guy's passion, but if Detroit doesn't tighten up on defense, Dan might not be around much longer. For that, Detroit gets a D+. The Chicago Bears. Yet another team that serves as a house divided. Led on offense by superstar quarterback Justin Fields. Yes, I said superstar. That man got the juice. The Bears have the number 1 rushing attack in the league, and Justin Fields seems to be rewriting the record book every single week from a quarterback rushing standpoint. And don't look now, but his past 3 games, Justin has 7 passing touchdowns to 1 interception with a 109 rating and a 65% completion percentage. Elite production. But where Chicago falls short is the defense. For a franchise known for defense, Chicago is giving up a bottom tier 25 points per game. I know the loss of Roquan Smith and Robert Quinn have something to do with that, and Chicago's in a clear rebuild, but that doesn't mean things gotta be this bad. Overall, Chicago looks primed to make big moves this offseason and ascend to the next level, so I'm going to give Chicago a B-. And also, speaking of Chicago, be sure to check out my Justin Fields video. I'll put the link to that in the description. The Minnesota Vikings.
This is too good to be true. Ain't no way in hell.
Alright. I honestly don't have much to say about this team. I did not expect them to be this good. I was hating on them for a while, and they're better than I thought. They got that boy Jay Jetta, Justin Jefferson. Kirk not supposed to be this good. And I'm shocked. Vikings, take this A+. Good job. The Dallas Cowboys.
I mean, it's alright. Like, overrated as fuck, in my opinion. I mean,
Dallas is one of those teams that will trick you if you look at their record to decide if they're good or not. On defense, they're the real deal by holding teams to 18 points per game, although they do seem to struggle against mobile quarterbacks and teams adept at running the football. But on offense, this team is overrated. The run game is too reliant on splash plays by Tony Pollard, the receivers are not consistently producing at a high level, and the quarterback play comes and goes. Overall, the team isn't bad, but when I hear them in top 5 conversations, that's when it gets too much. Dallas gets a B. The New York Giants.
I gotta admit it. I did not see this coming. In a million years, I did not see this coming.
Now, this is the most surprising team in the league. To go from winning a total of 14 games over the past 3 seasons to now winning 7 through the first 9 games this year, the Giants have pulled a complete 180 as a franchise. From the addition of Brian Daboll as a head coach to former Ravens defense coordinator Wink Martindale and his ultra-aggressive defense that blitzes a league-leading 40% of the time and sends an average of 5 to 6 defenders per blitz, to the resurgence of Saquon Barkley, the Giants look for real. I know I had doubted this team in the past, but over the past few weeks of looking at their games, I must say, I've been made a believer. The Giants are for real. A+. The Washington Commanders. First, let me say, I actually like the new name and don't understand why fans hate it so much. When I think of this team, I think of Cobra Commander from the G.I. Joes. He was cool, but he always lost to G.I. and the Joes. And just like Cobra Commander, these commanders are no strangers to losing as well. Defensively, they're a solid unit that gets a ton of pressure on the quarterback as they lead the league in quarterback knockdowns and allow the 6th fewest rushing touchdowns. But the secondary is where they seem to struggle. They're not horrible, but if they could play it up to the level of the D-line, then the Commanders' defense will be an absolute monster. Offensively, this team is pretty pedestrian, and it seems like the organization doesn't care much to make them better on that end. They're pretty much the poster child for being average. Man, I miss the RG3 era. Overall, the Commanders get a C-. The Philadelphia Eagles. This should be easy to understand. League best 8-1 record, 3rd in points per game, 4th in yards per game, 6th in rush yards per game, and right outside the top 10 in pass yards per game. Jalen Hurts is playing like the MVP of the league, and Philly is dominant on both sides of the ball as defensively they're top 5 in sacks and lead the league in interceptions. Philly appears to be in a win-now mode with the offseason addition of A.J. Brown and the in-season additions of Robert Quinn, Ndamukong Suh, and Linval Joseph, and I love to see when teams go all in to win. In a previous video, I had said the Eagles would make the Super Bowl, but would get beat by either Kansas City or Buffalo. However, a few weeks later, I must say, I've been made more of a fan of Philly, and they've made me believe that, honestly, they can beat anybody. Eagles get an obvious A+. The Carolina Panthers.
He can't seem to do anything right. I can't believe it. I cannot believe it. I can't believe what I'm seeing.
This team just isn't any good. They have some solid players on the roster like Brian Burns and J.C. Horn, but even they can't fix the dumpster fire that is the Carolina Panthers. I'm going to assume they're going through a rebuild with the firing of head coach Matt Rule and the trading of Christian McCaffrey that got them a 2nd, 3rd, and 4th round pick. But for now, Carolina gets a D-, although I am curious to see what they'll do in the future after their rebuild is started and or completed. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I have waited a long time for this moment.
Y'all have no idea how long I've been waiting for this. For the Buccaneers to finally get exposed. I know they won the Super Bowl 2 years ago, but they were the most overrated team when they won. And their path to get to the Super Bowl was super whack. And then when they got to the Super Bowl, they won because Kansas City had no offensive line. And then they were overrated last season. But even with all that, the thing that annoyed me the most was how every single day on ESPN, I had to listen to analysts constantly pick this team to make the Super Bowl for reasons unbeknownst to me. And now with the 5-5 record and a far below average scoring offense, all the Tampa Bay ball washing can be put to rest. Tampa Bay, D-. The New Orleans Saints.
I'm going to give you a Super F.
For a 9-8 team that had a top 5 defense last year, it would return with an improved Jameis Winston, the slant specialist Michael Thomas, and their 1st round draft pick who was star wide receiver from Ohio State Chris Olave. All that in addition to Pro Bowl running back Alvin Kamara, I just knew this team was primed for big things. But with injuries all up and down the roster, along with inconsistent quarterback play, although I think Jameis should still be the starter, the Saints have been a super disappointment. And with super disappointment comes super disappointing grades. New Orleans, Super F. The Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta is one of those teams you really got to watch play and not solely rely on stats to tell you the full story. They play much better on offense than you would think a Marcus Mariota-led team would, as they are top 5 in rush yards per game and right outside the top 10 in points per game. Now, they're still not a great team, but overall, Atlanta can play. They did better than I thought they would. And relative to their expectations, I give them a C-. The Arizona Cardinals.
I was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. How dare you? Learn something from this.
People who know me well know I'm a huge Kyler Murray fan, as he's my favorite player in the league. So when I say it pains me to see how the Cardinals have regressed from last year into what they are this year, I mean that. Arizona looks completely unrecognizable on defense for a team that was borderline top 10 last year to now that's bottom 3. Not only has the defense gotten worse, but the offense at times looks incredibly predictable with all the short passes and passes behind the line of scrimmage, and Kyler hasn't looked quite like himself lately either. He barely runs the ball anymore, and I know they limit this so he doesn't get injured as he's wont to do for the past 2 years, but I feel like you don't get the best version of Kyler Murray if you don't let him run and make plays like we saw at the end of the Raiders game. Arizona has a moderate closing schedule for the rest of the season, so they could very well make a playoff run starting Sunday, but the way things have been going, I gotta give Arizona a C+. The LA Rams. And speaking of teams that have been disappointing, it should be criminal what the LA Rams have been doing so far this season. This team won the Super Bowl 9 months ago, and now they sit at the bottom of the NFC West. Yes, the bottom at 3-6. Now I understand that Matthew Stafford has an injured throwing elbow, Von Miller's gone, the offensive line isn't very good, they never had a run game, so that doesn't really matter. But even with all that, it still doesn't mean that the defense should regress the way it has. All the stars are healthy, and yet this team, the defense that led them to the Super Bowl, looks like they're playing for the toilet bowl. Rams get a D. The 49ers. The season started off rough for San Fran with the loss of Trey Lance for the season, but Jimmy G's back in the saddle, and so far things have looked solid for the 49ers. Their offense is okay. Defense, they're actually playing really well. I do find the addition of Christian McCaffrey to be a bit overrated, where people think this team is just going to go deep in the playoffs because of that. And Deebo Samuel has actually underperformed this season compared to last year. Granted, I was never very high on him. He's a solid player, but he's not what we thought he would be. The 49ers are a bit inconsistent in regard to how well they play, but overall, San Francisco's a good team. I give them a B. The Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, they wrote me off. I ain't right back, though. That's the problem. I ain't right back. Let's go.
Talk to him, Geno. The Geno Smith-led Seahawks have a top 5 offense in the league, a 6-4 record, and to the top of the NFC West. Man, Geno about to make the Pro Bowl. It's Pro Bowl Geno time. And for that, the Seahawks get a B. And that's going to do it for today's video. Just like last time, be sure to comment down below in the comment section what your thoughts are. If you like the grades your team got, if you don't like them, or if you agree, be sure to let me know regardless. And also like the video and be sure to subscribe. Till next time, peace.